A few remarks about the 2012 Omnibus Appropriation Conference report just passed, and about one part of that report that had no place in any conference report or any House appropriation bill. I refer, of course, to the part of that report called the D.C. Appropriation Bill. For all of the contention in this Congress, as we look at the 2012 Omnibus appropriation, there is certainly much for Democrats to be relieved about. There was a wholesale attack in the beginning of this Congress on everything from education to clean energy. But in the end, because Democrats know how to fight for what the American people tell them to fight for, health care reform was saved. Wall Street reform was saved. Clean energy was saved. Job training was saved. NPR, the National Public Radio, was not defunded. Planned Parenthood, which offers reproductive services throughout our country, was not defunded. And Title X, family planning, was not defunded. The National Labor Relations Board can continue on its rules concerning union elections. And these are only some of the many ingredients in this omnibus report that led Democrats to vote for it, because it contained much for them to be proud of. Yes, in the give and take of appropriations, the kind of give and take there should have been more of during this Congress. There were some things in this appropriation bill for the nation that I do not support and that Democrats generally do not support. Still, this bill was far more bipartisan than any bill that has come before the 112th Congress. Then, of course, there was the D.C. appropriation. From anywhere in America, the words D.C. appropriation do not sound right on the House floor. This is a place where we deal with the nation's business, not the business of any local jurisdiction. But of course, there are anachronisms here. There are intrusions here, and they go to matters affecting the District of Columbia. To be sure, there is much to be relieved about in this bill. This was not a total loss for the district. The bill funded our top three priorities: the extraordinary D.C. Tuition Access Grant Program, the Department of Homeland Security headquarters, now going up in Ward 8, a part of our city where there is great unemployment, where this construction is doing a great deal of good, and funding for HIV/AIDS prevention in the District of Columbia. I want to thank my good friends, Ms. Emerson and Mrs. Serrano, particularly for the HIV/AIDS funding for education and prevention. This funding was included in the President's bill, but it didn't have to be in our appropriation. And indeed, it was in neither the initial House or Senate appropriation. I asked these two appropriators if they could possibly see to it that this funding was included, because the district has the highest HIV/AIDS rate in the United States, in part because of the needle exchange rider. Well, this doesn't have to do with the needle exchange rider. This just has to do with making sure that there's money for prevention and education. And so I want to thank Ms. Emerson, and I want to thank Mr. Serrano, because together they saw to it that this funding was in the bill. And I certainly want to thank Ms. Emerson for the bipartisanship she has shown ever since she has been on the committee that handles the DC appropriation. Even in those occasions where she and I are in disagreement, she is always open to hearing from us. I am equally glad that the DC TAG program was funded. Thousands of our children are going to colleges throughout the United States. On funding from the federal government to make up for the fact that the District of Columbia does not have a state university system. If this funding had been shut off, it would have been a catastrophe for those in college and those preparing to go to college. And of course, I mentioned the Department of Homeland Security headquarters. That headquarters, a priority for this administration and the last administration, is also a priority for the District of Columbia, because so many of the jobs will go to those in this region and of course in the District of Columbia. We are justifiably angry about the DC appropriation rider that was again placed on this appropriation for the second year in a row, despite an energetic campaign from many of our allies, district residents, as well, to eliminate this rider. I see that my good friend, Mr. Hoyer, has come to the floor. While there is a great deal more I want to say about this bill and how it affects the District of Columbia, it is with pleasure that I yield to my good friend, the whip, such time as he may desire.
I thank the gentlelady for yielding.